Hello. Yes, it is. Hello. Good evening. Hi. Yeah. Hello. Yes. Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming to the Visiting Writers Series first event of the semester and of the 2023-2024 season. My name is Jasmine Witherspoon, and I'm a second-year MFA student here studying poetry. I'll just be taking care of a few administrative things before we get started. So, as always, we like to remind everyone that the University of Kentucky rests on the dispossessed lands of the Shawnee, Cherokee, Chickasaw, and Osage people. The Visiting Writers Series is hosted by the University of Kentucky's Department of English and brought to us by folks like John Sirigliano and Amelia Crutcher. Please allow me to introduce you to Deidre White, who will announce our guest speaker tonight. Deidre White, a Lexington native, is a University of Kentucky MFA candidate and Appalachian poet. She is the winner of the 2022 Farquhar Award for Poetry, the 2022 William Hugh Jansen Undergraduate Award for Distinguished Writing in the Art of Storytelling Folklore, the Patricia and William Stacy Endowed Fellowship for Distinguished Honors in English, and the 2023 winner of the Nonfiction Award for her contemporary piece, Duck. She considers herself a true writer of any genre, but a poet by blood. Her work explores the dynamics of Black womanhood, community, and culture. Let's welcome Deidre White to the stage.
She sounds amazing, doesn't she? All right, let's get this thing rolling. Alrighty, it doesn't want to work for me today. Here we are. Glenis Redmond is the first poet laureate of Greenville, South Carolina. She is a Kennedy Center teaching artist and a Canem alumni. She has authored 6 books of poetry: Backbone, Under the Sun, and What My Hands Say, Listening Skin, 3 Harriets and Others, and praise songs for Dave the Potter, art by Jonathan Green, and poetry by Glenis Redmond. Glenis received the highest arts award in South Carolina, the Governor's Award, and inducted into the South Carolina Academy of Authors. She is a Charlie Award recipient, awarded by the Carolina Mountains Literary Festival, and was recently a recipient of the Peacemaker Award by the Upstate Mediation Center in 2022. Of Glenis Redmond, Kwame Dawes says, and I quote, "If poets make words bloom, Glenis Redmond is a master gardener, bringing unintended history back to life in verse." If you were to ask Miss Redmond how she got her start, she may facetiously tell you the Ku Klux Klan. Crazy, I know, but these fools thought it would be a good idea to march into Asheville, North Carolina, not knowing a self-proclaimed road warrior for poetry lived there. And she destroyed their agenda with her words and built a stepping stone for herself that kept her booked for 2 straight years at the same time. Glenis Redmond has assisted new writers of poetry through online classes and took those same inexperienced poets to the White House, where they all gave their very first reading to Michelle Obama herself. She created the first poetry slam in Greenville, South Carolina, and if I continue to relay her accomplishments, we'd be here all damn night. But I think the most profound thing I read when studying Glenis Redmond, aside from her poetry, is that she believes, and I quote, "Poetry is the mouth that speaks when all others are silent." I sat with that quote for 2 straight days, rattling around in my mind and then contemplating it in my heart. I kept asking myself, what am I not saying? What part of me have I bound and gagged and allowed others to beat into silence? My mother died in 1994, and I don't speak of it often, but Glenis inspired me to write this. It is a hard thing to pin down, silence. It's so loud around a lie, like turtlenecks in July. Mama, and eyes matching sunglasses. I wore them at her funeral. I wear them for you. I never understood love that stays. I'm not dancing for you, we are sparring. There is a rhythm to it. You probably should move your feet. My calloused heart in need of new shoes, soul intact, slightly bruised, but still in good condition. Come walk with me. We may talk, I promise. I will listen with my skin. I want to bring to the podium Glenis Redmond. Thank you so much for everything you've given to poetry.
Dee, thank you for that. She already burnt the stage down. What am I supposed to do? You all, I am so happy to be here in Lexington. I just trying to do the math. The last time I was here, I think I was map questing. And I know a lot of people in this room don't know what map questing is, but that had to be 2000. I am so happy to be back here. I want to thank everybody, who brought me here. The English department, especially the MFA creative writers. Crystal Wilkinson, thank you. Jasmine, you are exquisite, and our conversations between the car rides have been wonderful, and you restore my faith in humanity. Eric Reese, D. White, your spirit, oh my goodness. Professor Walker, Dr. Morgan, everybody in the house, thank you. Thank you for listening to the words that I am going to say today. I do want to say your town is lovely. The city is interesting, but I was perplexed by the restaurant across, was it Nick and something? Nick and Norman? Yeah, I thought that C was a G. I was like, what? I said, okay. But then, maybe it was just the road trip. So I'm going to read out of my newest collection. It is called The Listening Skin, and the premise of it is that it's taken from Elaine Aron's work of highly sensitive people. And do you all know that work? And it's about people who are too sensitive to light, sound. We don't watch horror movies because we think it's happening to us, right? Some of you know what I'm talking about. And I cry a lot at shows, movies, everything. And I thought my daughters would be HSPs too, twin daughters. They are not. They just look at me every time I'm getting ready to cry, they just look at me, there she goes again. But this work was really important to me because I felt like in my family I was a standalone. And when I found Elaine Aron's work and read about it, I called my mother, who was living in Greenville, South Carolina at the time, and I read her what this was, and she just cried, and she said, "It's not all my fault." And it made me make a whole lot more sense. I also want to talk, before I read, a little bit about, so that it goes, this book is dedicated for my mama, Jeanette Redmond, for my daughters, Celeste, Shara, and Amber Shara, for my grandchildren, Julian Priester, Paisley Farman, and Quinn, which being a Gaga is the best job there possibly is. For the ancestors, for myself, and all HSPs, may you find a soft place to land in these words and in the world. And so the first poem that I want to share with you is a poem that is titled, Make No Apologies for Yourself. Dear you, make no apologies for yourself, because you are covered in a listening skin, because every ache you feel is not your own, because of the bowl of sorrow your mother carries, because of your father's wildfire moods, because of how many rivers they crossed, because of the lynching tree. Because when you enter bookstores, volumes fall off shelves into your open palms, because you ask questions of the universe, and it answers and opens before you like a page of text, because you can read the sky, those clouds, and that murder of crows, because poets are your wounded idols, because the truth, even if it hurts, is to be cherished and held. And just because people die does not mean they don't walk with you daily, because the river has a mouth that speaks their names, because the river flows with stories, because alone is more comforting than being together, because your pen is oceanic, because you are eyes wide, equipped with outer and inner sight, because you suffer from what you see and hear. That's not loud right now to y'all? I feel like it's in the room. Because you have sinus arrhythmia and your breath is short, because asthma is one of the monkeys on your back, because your heart is the vehicle you choose to ride this go-round, because it can go forward and backwards in time, because bookstores are your oracles, because poetry is your greatest archaeological tool, because you plummet even though you can barely swim, because you trust the ride of journal and journey, even if you do not always float, because your heart beats to your breath, because of this music, you dance raw and wild. The next poem I'm going to read is called From the Mouth of the River. And about that KKK thing, it really did happen. I mean, so they were marching in town, and a group of concerned citizens, all races, all faith, decided we would come together and do a unity rally. And so it was there that there were some booking agents sitting in the audience. And after they saw what I did, they said, well, if that's what you do, we want to book you. And I was like, okay. So when I was being interviewed by a journalist, I told him the KKK story, and he put that at the top of the article. You could at least bury it somewhere. I got so many death threats, I kid you not. But the interesting thing about that was, I was telling Jasmine, about 3 years after that, I was called to go to Polk County, and I was doing a residency at an elementary school, and a teacher sidled up to me and she said, you know when the KKK came to town? I'm like, yeah. She said, you're teaching their kids today. And it was one of those full moments. I taught their kids, and then I just got on out of town, because I'm brave but not stupid. From the mouth of the river, and this is for Reedy River, the river that runs through my town. I blame the sharp edges of your father, who put the fight, flight, and fear into you, every sight and sound magnified. So when you walk by me, my rush makes you look over your shoulder, feel his hot breath. Lost in panic, you check for footsteps. Your back is always turned to me. You judge me by your parents' lack, their inability to swim, because Jim Crow laws barred their access to water, no swimming holes and pools for them. Grandma fished in lakes unafraid, you say, but still you do not come to my edge, because you live so close to yours. You rarely dip a big toe. You refuse to stand still long enough to heal. I speak loud and lashing rocks, not to scare you, but to let the music tend to your brokenness. You've been traumatized by the Tallahatchie. It roars the loudest to you. Shaken to your core, you hold history against me. You keep Emmett Till's bloated swell on playback. What would I give for you to lay your burdens down? Trust, I am not your enemy. Only human hands taint me, but your central nervous system is too turned up to receive what I offer. The hawk in her nest, my rushing sounds echoing the Cherokee, my ancient song hills. If you stand still long enough, you'll be in my flow. No, I don't take life, I give it. So this poem, I do want to say the Appalachian poets have always inspired me. I consider myself one. Okay. And I also started thinking about Afro-Carolina as well, North Carolina and South Carolina. Like, so we are part of the Appalachia, right, in upstate South Carolina. But then you go further, right? You go down to the low country. That's a whole nother, that's the mouth. And my next book is really talking about port cities. And so it's called Port Cities, Portals to Other Worlds, because I would have these unworldly experiences traveling. And it took me, I'm slow. It took me 10 years to realize when I was having these out-of-body experiences that they were all at port cities. Well, what's at port cities? Yes, it was all, so I was in Bristol, England, Liverpool, and they would come up to me, we didn't have slavery here. No, you just built the ships, it was there. And so then New York and Perth Amboy, and then Charleston, where most of, a large amount. So Afro-Carolina is important to me. The Middle Passage, of course, which is huge, but what I've been contemplating lately is the domestic Middle Passage. Okay, so my ancestors came in through Charleston, but how did they get to the Upstate? It was 215 miles. So they walked, wagon, both. No, it's just this hidden history. So that's the path I'm on now, really trying to make that connection, because upstate, we have an identity crisis. Because when you think of South Carolina, you think of Gullah Geechee, right? And we did extend from there. I know my grandmother, but then there was another whole culture that happened because we're landlocked. We're not ocean like they are. So that's where my mind is now. I wrote this poem called Afro-Carolinian. And it talks about my grandmother. In my poems, I talk about my grandmother a lot. She lived to be 109. And yeah, I'm going to have to get my health together. My grandmother lived to be 109. She smoked, y'all. She did. I'm not advocating smoking, but I'm just saying. Afro-Carolinian. With Carolina on my lips, I sing a quilt, a crooked stitch that weaves its way around my pie-shaped state that conjures food, too sweet like the amber iced tea or cake red velvet rich, too sweet like the words I was raised on. Words that say, if you don't have nothing nice to say, lace it with sugar. There's always more in the South, like the 2s and 3s coming out grandma's mouth. Hush your mouth, child. These words, not a command for silence, but a signal for the teller to keep on spinning because her words hit bone. Grandma's words were codes, lit lanterns. We grind down yonder in the morning. Not a pronouncement to a destination, but a place where she teach a lesson. At her favorite fishing spot, by her foot, a coffee can full of night crawlers. In her mouth, a cigarette she barely puffed. In her hands, a homemade fishing rod. Lying steeped in the water, waiting for hook tug. She never said the word patience. She just stood live oak-like, grounded in her own wisdom. A Baptist Buddha woman teaching, be here now. Her uncanny ways taught me how to wait on the Spirit. Hunched in her favorite recliner, King James Bible on the left, her eyes forward, soaking in wrestling, her faith rooted in the Lord and Ricky Steamboat. I was wrapped in how she contort herself as if she were headlocking demons, choke holding them in Jesus' name. Simultaneously, burning tufts of hair in a glass ashtray raked from her comb so no one would work a root. Grandma taught me the truth was a complex helix rising. From her, I learned how to watch as well as pray, and how the shackled speak in double tongues. As a second daughter of a second daughter, I began life as a shamefaced girl, too shy to string together words. I did not open my mouth until I had something to say. I was busy looking in grown folks' mouth, collecting the old ways, placing them on my tongue. My first language was scratched from the land, sweet potatoes, collards, and black-eyed peas. As a second daughter of a second daughter, scholar, I straddle the abyss of the diaspora and the church pew, where I learned to speak Afro-Carolinian fluently. Some call it a backwards tongue. I call it a knowing, a spiritual that will carry you forward if you listen and learn how to sing it. I'm doing y'all a favor. I'm not singing tonight. Usually I'll break out in song, but my mother's like, girl, just keep it to the poetry. It's brutal. It's brutal. She's right. She's right. But so, sometimes I like to sing just because I grew up in that tradition where a elder sang off key. It pierces the heart. You know what I mean? You can't get it like that. When someone, that broken part? That broken part, that's what I got. So this next poem is written after Elizabeth Acevedo, and it's called When Mama Dreams of Fish or Black Folks' Superstitions. Mama in one breath recites, yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. In the next breath, don't open that umbrella in my house. It's bad luck. Don't court trouble. When she dreams of fish upon waking, immediately ask, itch in the right palm foretells money's coming on New Year's Day. She cooked collars for abundance of dollars and black-eyed peas for plentiful change. Mama never places her purse on the floor so she won't go broke. But with a wave of a hand and a tisk of tongue says, I don't believe in foolishness, that foolishness. What I hear her say, don't do as I do, but do as I say do. As she calls on Jesus, burning her hair, so the strands can't be gathered for root work. If a bird pecks on your window or a picture falls off the wall, death is near. If a spider drops before you on its web, a stranger's coming to visit. Gain a man's heart through his stomach, to keep him put, bury his drawers in the backyard. She shoos me away when I have a broom in hand. Don't sweep my feet, might want to get married again. Reading crows, 1 for trouble, 2 to receive a letter, and 3 for joy. And a gray-headed child is to be cherished, for that child will be both wise and rich. When walking, never split a pole with a person you love, or the relationship will be severed. Don't tell your wishes or wants to anyone, or they will be snatched on the wind. In hush whispers, she always warns, every shut-eye ain't sleep, and every goodbye ain't thank you. As a child, I love call and response. As a child, I never really knew what mama meant, but I learned as my mother's daughter to see between her words and sense the world with my eyes closed. My mom hates that poem. Oh, why you put my business all out there? So this book is meant to give you whiplash. It's in the present, then I jump to the past, and I'm going to go to the past. I have a chapter called The Three Harriets, and of course, they're our most favorite Harriet, who? And then Harriet Jacobs. Everybody knows Harriet Jacobs? Enslaved person in Edenton, North Carolina, who hid in the attic for 7 years from her. Yeah. And then Harriet Wilson, first African-American novelist. And so I call them the Three Harriets. And I was part of this project where we had Lynette Overby, who's a professor at University of Delaware. She's a dance and theater major. I would send the poems to her, and then her undergraduate would dance the poems. And so you can find that online. You can look under sharing our stories. And if you just put in the Three Harriets, it'll come up. And the undergraduates accused me of liking Harriet Tubman the most. And they were not wrong. And I'm not disrespecting the others, but Harriet Tubman looked like my grandmother, and so I felt like she was just speaking to me directly, right? But I'm going to read, instead of reading Harriet Tubman, which I always lean to, I'm going to read Harriet Jacobs. And I remember going to Edenton. Anybody ever been to Edenton, North Carolina? You should go. It's an interesting town. The town going in, I was there for 3 weeks. Going in, there were 4 plantations, and I went to every single one of them. And then there is cotton as far as the eye could see. And then I remember going to the museum, and that's when I learned, and this was 2000, maybe 8, and I remember going in and learning about Harriet Jacobs. And the docent there kept saying, well, if it happened, if her slave owner did that to if. And I'm like, what is this if, you know? And it was this way of like, here is the story, but you're erasing it on your tour. It was, anyway, but so many years later, here I am writing for Harriet Jacobs. She doesn't need me, I need her. The title is House, Another Kind of Field. This house, big. The way I am held by his hands, I am tight, a tight fist. I tiptoe and flinch around every corner. Over my shoulder is where my eyes live. This body I carry, not mine. My chest heaves all day. High yellow, light bright, almost white, whatever color I am called, his gaze burns me. So does his hands. I am kept closer than his wife. He leaves me nothing but bruised blue. I, house nigger, not one step up from, but another kind of down. House be another way to say feel. He makes me feel like the dirt he walks on, upturned and plowed. His teeth metal rakes across my skin. His mouth and hands don't do nothing but take, rip, tear, and thrust. I bleed and breed. Chains seen or unseen, my feet still shackled. This is not the life the Almighty meant for me. But no choice is what I got. The only place I run far is in my mind. I keep my lips shut, but every scream I don't shout is loud within me. Every scream adds up to flee. My feet become my mind. They carry me to where grandma stay. She free. How I like to just lie down in her arms and rest for always. But ain't no rest for a hunted slave. Light bright, almost white, whatever color I am called, his gaze finds me. The body I carry, not my own. My chest heaves all day. Grandma addicts me away. When I walk through her upstairs door, I don't know if I will ever be free. This attic feels like a pine box. My feet can't wander, my many feet yonder, but a few steps. My hands, my arms, my legs God gifted me can't stretch. I am a bent star dwelling in shuttered light. So small my world seems, low roof and tight walls make like my grave. This attic could be a pine box closing, but in my chest, I feel an opening. Above his reach, the less I feel like a kept thing. This room dark most days, but I see myself clear. I dance a dance in this place of tight walls and roof to break his white grasp. I wiggle, I weave, I work, not 7 days, not 7 weeks, not 7 months, but 7 years of bearing heat and cold. Where rats bite, the only touch I know. I am bent by this stay, but I fix my mind for when the door opens. I am ready to fling myself wide, take up any space in this world, star spread and wide. Really working on migrations right now. And so in this book, I can tell where I'm going to the next book. And so I'm really concerned with that. Like I said, the domestic middle passage, which I call the second middle passage. And then I'm also concerned with my family's military track. I'm an Air Force brat. So I have place, but I also feel displaced at the same time. Some of y'all, okay, I got some snaps. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We moved from Aviano, Italy to New Jersey for 6 months, and then we went back to Piedmont, South Carolina. My parents, anyway, somebody laughed. They know what I'm talking about. That culture shock I'm still kind of dealing with, and that's why I write. And so this is a poem that talks about that, and it's called, You Know You Are Not From Here. You know you are not from here when your dad retires and announces we're going home. When South Carolina is just a concept, not a place. When it would never dawn on your parents to preview or set the context for the South. When they just load all 6 of you into the 1974 puce green Chevy Nova and head south on I-95. When you are eyes wide and full of questions. When you see a Sambo displayed on a roadside billboard. When, as an Air Force child raised elsewhere, you do not understand the color lines at basketball games or on Sunday mornings. But when you wake to charred and smoldering grass from a cross burned in your neighborhood. When you see a plantation for the first time, you are not awed by its beauty, but haunted by the slave cabins not included on public tours. When you learn to navigate the historical landmines. When your steps become fluid dance moves in the margins, and your tongue follows with fluent code switch and switchbacks, cricks, hollers, and down yonders. And when you do not know what the word kin means. But when you've been here long enough, you feel how blood circles back. When you truly understands Dorothy's decree as doubled edge, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. This next poem is called Racism Squared. I don't know how, I'm, dating myself, but when we took gym or PE, we had to do square dance. Is there anybody else in here who had to do? Only a few. I was really upset by that. And I'm not gonna talk too much. I'm just gonna read the poem, okay? It's called Racism Squared. Square dances and town squares fill me with the inarticulate fire. How I burn when forced to dance a folk dance, not of my folk. Even at 15, I knew dance was every shape but square. My friends and I, dressed in all black, preferred our routine to heat waves, boogie nights. Y'all know? Boogie nights, no doubt. We are here to dance to the... Yes, because boogie... Got to get that. Okay, yeah. D, come on, girl. You come up here. All right. We circled the floor with heads and hips, even our back curved to the beat of bass and drum. Unbeknownst to us, we shimmied in the footsteps of our ancestors. In gym class, 4th grade, we were forced to heed the call, swing your partner. And I was swung into the center of every southern town I ever entered. Where the phantom auction block sits, where the Carla box bitter sold. I flinch when fireworks explode. I can't celebrate or abide parades, paper red, white, and blue, or Irish green. People drunk stumbled to bad beer and music that twangs. There were times when we were dismembered on these streets. I flash back to whip, crack, and snap of branches, to another black man or a black woman hanging half-mast on trees, while white people feast overhead, my people swing. Yeah, I know Henry Ford had that initiative. I did not know that we studied Henry Ford in college, but they did not tell us he had that initiative. So he was anti-Jewish folks and black folks. He hated jazz. And so this was an initiative to get folks away from what he considered African-American music and Jewish music. So I knew that. I knew that at 15, but I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So... this one is about our migration. It's called Boy. And the epigraph is foghorn leghorn. I say boy, pay attention to me when I'm talking to you, boy. He's pockmarked and bullet-ridden, learns to dance, duck, and dodge with his head raised or lowered. He knew either way, they coming for you. Boy be another way to pin you in place, grind metal into precious flesh, a weighted word aimed and hurled, meant to maim, slow kill preferably. At the Poinsett Hotel, he's back-bent busboy busy, clearing tables and washing dishes, trying everything he knows to grow full height into becoming a man. His change so short, he figures he can't get there from here. One day he knows, if one more person calls me boy, I'll kill him. Instead of punching the clock the next day, he finds the Air Force recruitment office, signs his whole legal name, Johnny Clifton Redmond, exchanges apron for fatigues, swaps battlefields. And this poem is called Hangman, parentheses, Woman. As kids, what did we know? We drew the noose. We thought it, just a guessing game, but Mama's mouth as scissors told us otherwise. Later, I learned what she could not say. I felt how trees leaned against our favor, history slant. We were not meant to be written in, but hung. Now I carry the brunt and burden of all the names spilled that I cannot spell into each and every blank. So I'm gonna, are y'all okay? I know that we went kind of hard. Sorry, that's my nature. I ruin every Disney movie for my daughters every single time. They're like, why you gotta get political, Mom? We just trying to watch the show. And now they get political too, so it's like, it worked. But they still love Disney. Yeah, my daughter, I'm writing my, how many went to the Barbie movie? Oh, that's a big number, okay. I haven't seen it yet, but my daughter went, Amber, she was decked out in all pink. Like, so I have twins, and they are polar opposites. One Barbie, one never a Barbie. So it's a very interesting. I haven't seen it yet, but I have written an essay, okay? That's how I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. My daughter said, you're going to appreciate it. But, it's going to take me a little bit. Okay. So these poems are, two poems that are not in the book. They'll be in the next book. So this poem is called For Dark-Skinned Black Women. It's not just about the red lipstick. It's just the tip, but the message goes deeper. Imprinted early on dark skin, the dark scar worn on the inside. It's the no, the you can't, the not for you, the girl, the side-eyed look, the dismissal when you walk across thresholds, the stop signs, the flame you feel, not always what they say. It's the message between the words, the pushing you underneath when they ask, Black girl, where's your smile? Why you wear your frown as self-defense? The brown bag test still in effect. The color line by white and blacks. The smash you to ash. The turning you to charcoal, smoke, lotion, and Vaseline can't cut it. It's the testimony from other dark sisters. When I was elevated in a position, I muted myself to grays and blacks. It's the blur. It's the just blend in. The blackest bird. The brownest sparrow. It's the 5-fire alarm fire placed in your belly from birth. The beat down dark woman client in the chair next to mine. I did not know we could wear red lipstick. Her Miss Seeley's woundedness. It's how dare you dream in color, much less be in color. It's my pushback against those standards. My ascent I began long ago, how to go against the grain, outline, my mahogany hue in red, in lip, and in life, if I choose. So I'm just gonna do a few more, and then if we have time for Q&A. So this, I was at Clemson, and Juneteenth, and the Poet Laureate of Columbia had given us a prompt from Nikki Giovanni, and the line was, Black wealth is Black love. And this is just where my head went. It's called In Spades. How many play spades in here? Can I see? Okay. Oh, get some white folks who play spades. Okay. I'm not mad at you. Okay. In spades, black wealth is black love. Black love is a bed, firm or soft, whatever it is, black love is pure. Struggle or beauty or both. Comes in spades, you know what I mean, the card game. We played every day except Sunday. Mama's rules. Black love is a table, us gathered round, partners pick, rules set at the top, deuces wild, don't renege. Yes, we know what it sounds like. We black as we want to be. Prime real estate, across the board, no talking. Shuffle the deck, cut right, deal left, talk trash always. If you dish it out, you better be able to eat it. With words, with books. When the getting got good, Daddy plastered his next card on his forehead 3 moves before. Then hack! He made his spades cut twice, here and everywhere else. Don't get set or go in the hole. You can get out, but you gotta have the hands. Spades is life, like air, like water, like be all in. We play. Everybody knows. Ain't nobody playing. And then for my last poem, I'm just saying, when I was on my way here yesterday, when I came in, I was coming into town and there was a fire truck right behind. I hate it when they're right behind you and there's nowhere to go. And I was like, I was out of my skin. So this poem is a little hard for me to do. I've been struggling with some health issues, and so I have asthma and I have some other things going on, but I'm gonna do this poem anyhow, and if I pass out, just, send them after me. Call 911. This poem is called The Wind in My Name, and yes. What my mama and daddy handed down on the day before King's I Have a Dream speech, Glenis Redmond is grounded in what's real. I don't need no stage name, no hip-hop moniker. My parents knew their baby girl born in the 60s needed to be fit with 2 black fists. Irony aside, the Celtic twist of the slaveholder's grip, I like the tight fit of my 2 Welsh names, Glenis Gale. Valley on one hand, wind on the other, ancestral forces at my back while I face the shadow of death. The decade of killing into which I was born, King on the balcony of the Laureate, Evers in Mississippi in his own driveway, the bullets that struck Malcolm 7 times on 166 and Broadway, and Mama's brother, Uncle Pete, killed by his so-called doctor. Boy, take these pills, ain't nothing wrong with you but lazy. Only for him to die the next day on his living room couch at age 24. There's real hurt in this hurricane, so there's no pretense, just urgency. I need every fiber in my fast twitch muscles as I blow past pain, as I run like the wind in my name. They don't like it when we run, made laws against our legs, poised in the arc of freedom. String me up by my given name. They try to call me out of nigger, bitch, wench, gal, hoe, the noose they want me to work and twerk to before I dance the swing and dangle, but I got blood memory running in my name, like a fever in my name. So I jerk, possessed with spirits unrest to the cunning in Cunningham. Slaveholders that gave my great-grandma her last name, silencing the shackle of those who never rebel, but left the plot in me stirring with these songs of freedom. They say it's wind, but I believe it's fire in my belly. I feel my great-grandma rising in my name off the Rosemont plantation in Waterloo, South Carolina. This ain't no play, but for real. I try to keep it real. Even at age 9, mama say, stop acting so mannish. But legs crossed, hair restrained like a dog on a chain, ain't headed nowhere, and lower your voice. Loud ain't lovely. but quiet is not in my nature. And if you expect it to be, you probably shouldn't have named me after the jet that broke the sound barrier. Glamorous Glenis, destiny and fate dictate I break laws of gravity. The black ink turned into wings that morph into the music and the spiritual, the teeth, the tongue, the lungs, the asthmatic breath, all in this name. I got ground holding me down, geography in my name. I got Cherokee Mountains. I said I got red in this name. The west coast of Africa, Cameroon and Nigeria, leaf and bone, the struggle of the slave port, auction blocks to sweetgrass in my name. I got fire. I got ammunition in this name. I feel like a female Moses running underground, under and overground in my name, holding pens and paper to people's hands and hearts saying, write your way out. I got griots of Africa, bards of Wales, tellers of Indian tales. I Glenis up everything. Personal and collective history. Wind is a serious force not to be toyed with. No cubic zirconia gleam, no pretend in me, no persona wannabe. Just my grandma saying, all you got to do is stay black and that's what she did after 109 years. I write what she couldn't in my name, live and give breath in my name. I'm a force that breathes life into voice. Take what my mama and daddy gave me, grounded and rooted in what's real. I claim this all. I claim this all. I claim this all in my name. Thank you all. Thank you.
So at this time, I believe we can take some time for some questions. We were supposed to have books for sale, but the bookstore bailed on us. So yeah, I'll be sending them an email that says, I'm not mad, just disappointed. But I will take questions, or Glenis will take questions from anyone in the audience who would like to ask anything. So.
And if you want to take a beat, just take a deep breath.
Yes.
And take it out. I mean, that's a lot. You know, there was a lot coming at you, and so, yes. Thank you, Jasmine. And don't be afraid. Yes.
Did you always write, like even as a kid, or was that a form of expression that came to you as you got older?
I was a voracious reader. That was my escape from my dysfunctional household. I, at 4, begged my mom to take me to the library to get my library card. I don't even know how that happened. I don't even know how I knew that was a thing. But I think I was the first person in the family to have a library card. And then so I read. I started off, my brother was a big comic book person. He turned me into a comic book person. He liked Marvel and DC, and I did all the girly ones, Archie and, all of that. But we read, and then, I loved... The blackest characters I could find was Ramona the Pest and Beverly, and Pippi Longstockings. Because they were so unlikely, and I just found myself in them. Because my sister was the pretty one, she was the golden child, and I was the tomboy they just didn't know what to do with me. But it was hearing. We lived overseas in Italy, and I heard a poem by Jackie Early, and it was a 10th grader, a Black History program. I was in the 5th grade. Do you all know 1,968 Winners? And it goes, I got up this morning feeling good and black, thinking black thoughts, did black things, played all my black records, put on my best black clothes, minded on my own black business, walked out my black door, and Lord have mercy, white snow. I was in the 5th grade, and that everybody laughed, and I laughed, and it was a funny poem, but it was like the Spades. I knew it wasn't fun. I knew it was serious. And then it was 2 years later, we moved back. We moved to South Carolina, and a teacher said, write in your journal. So I was 13. And what happened was I started writing praise poems. I had no idea they were connected to my lineage. I found that out in grad school, that I was doing something that my ancestors did. It was weird. It was just so strange. But my community took me seriously. My church, if somebody died, they called my parents' house and talked to a 13-year-old and gave me all the information. And I wrote the elegy. And then I went to the funeral. I was barely over the pulpit, and I delivered the poem. So I started writing at 13, and that's why I really love working with young people, because they have, I think we need to give them a place and a space to do what they do. So that's a long way of answering that. Yes. I laugh not at you, but myself. The process is varied. Some poems are very, come in a very, like getting up and writing every day. I'm writing on a theme. I know what I'm writing about. That is a methodical process. And then there are these other poems that come at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning that just kind of announce themselves. And all you have to do is just step out of the way and let them come. I didn't read the David Drake poems about the enslaved potter poet. I have another book out. But those poems came. He just announced himself on a plane, which was inconvenient. He didn't care. So I just wrote automatic writing all the way plane, then I was living in Charlotte at the time, got home, went into my bedroom, stayed for 3 days, and just let him write. So there's that more stayed, I'm writing this, I'm on this train, this is what's coming, and announcing himself. And then this other thing that just happens. I was talking about the mystical document in the talk today. It's just that mystical that kind of, I don't know where it comes from, but it comes. So that's my process. I have a lovely desk. I was telling them I bought it during COVID. I bought myself a lot of stuff during COVID. I don't know if you guys were like me. I mean, I gifted myself during COVID. Woo! And so I bought me this wonderful desk, the kind that rides where you can stand and then you can sit. I have not used it once. I write on the couch, dining room table, in the shower, and sometimes while driving. I know, I'm stopping. It's bad. It's not good. But what I realize, what really happens is rhythm, and when I get out of my space and out of my head, that's when the poems come. But I try to write every day, 4 to 5 hours. Yes. Yes. Say that again. Oh, yeah. I was 9 and I was 12 when we left. So I loved Italy. What I remember most is I had a bomb of a 5th grade teacher. Her name was Miss Van. And she had a red bouffant. And she was cool, and she took us to Pompeii on a Monday, and it was closed. And she snuck us in. I mean, it's those things, she was radical, I like that. But I have a lot of memories. What I remember most about Italy, and it was the 70s, you guys, and I don't know why we're even alive. Like, we lived 25 miles from the base, and as kids, we hitchhiked to the base. Like, why are we alive? And then when we came back to the States, it's like, you cannot do that. But it was really a different time then. But we did a lot of things. I love Italy, but I did not understand the jewel of what Italy was, because all we wanted to do was get back to America and have McDonald's. But meanwhile, we had pizza and wine and pasta. So Italy was formidable, and I'm writing more about that in a novel in verse. Yes. Just writing. I still write. I still kind of have whiplash from that. I mean, I think one thing was so funny, like I come from a family of athletes. We were all very fast. We were all sprinters. And my brothers were like the top. And I'm just going to tell you a story about New Jersey. And so my brother came home one day, and he's like, I got beat in the 100 meters. And we're like, you got beat? Who beat you? He said, this dude named Carl Lewis. I mean, really. And if you don't know who Carl Lewis, just Google him and look him up. But it was those kind of moments. So I'm one of 5, and I'm the 4th. And I'm the only child born in South Carolina. My brother before me was born in Évreux, France. I hated him. People would say, where are you born? Évreux, France. Where are you born? Sumter, South Carolina. It just didn't have that ring to it. But now I feel like there was no mistake. South Carolina is my state. And I will always be writing about South Carolina. And it took me to come back. I came back. We lived in Asheville, raised our children in Asheville, but I moved back to Greenville about 12 years ago. And that moving back really allowed me to see the town differently, and to deal with all the triggers and all the stuff growing up, and the people who did things to you, but then they don't remember that, like the teachers and stuff. Like, you're like, I remember what you did to me. Like, you didn't give me MVP, and I was supposed, no, okay, that's too much, y'all. But anyway, but it's, that's right. I consider myself a place-based poet, and that's what I love about your city. I've been walking the city because I hadn't been so long, and going into the library and seeing, it's so rich here. You guys have created so much art, and I will take that with me, and I continue to help and hope Greenville will move. And matter of fact, Crystal, I was at the Irish store today, and Teresa Dean said, "Oh, Crystal Wilkinson, I wrote with her." So I just wanted to say that, because I talk to everybody. And then, so those of you who are not Facebook friends with me, I really do believe in the mystical moments. And so last night, I drive in, get to my hotel, and the guy signs me in. He says, "What are you here for?" I said, "Oh, I'm here to do some poetry." He said, "You look like an author." And I said, "What does an author look like?" He said, "You look distinguished." I'm like, I'll take that. I got jeans on and a Target t-shirt, but I'll take that. But then I went to the Italian restaurant connected to the hotel, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm a little worn, but I look up, and there's a white woman sitting in the next table with two other people, and she looks really familiar. And I just keep, you see someone, you're like, do I know them? I'm looking rude now, because I'm staring. And I text my daughter, I said, "What is that show that we binged?" And she said, "The morning show." I'm like, no, the other one. And then A Million Little Pieces. Y'all know that one? And I'm going, "Yeah, that's it." And I'm like, I believe the actress, one of the stars, is sitting right over there. And my daughter was like, "Just take a picture." I'm like, no, I'm not going to intrude on her like that. So I'm eating my lamb. Do not judge. I'm eating my lamb. And I, finish, and then I wait till they finish, right? And then the Glenis in me comes up. So after we both finish, I just go over. I said, "Are you Allison Miller from A Million Little Things?" She's like, "Yes, I am." And I said, "I'm a cancer survivor. Thank you for portraying a cancer survivor." And I start weeping. And she's like, "Can I hug you?" I hug her, and then her mom said, "I'm her mom. Can I hug you?" And I hug her. The dad did not hug me. He just went like this. "I'm John." I'm like, "Okay, John." And then so I said, "Oh, well, I'm here to do some poetry." And then she said, "Oh, I used to teach at University of Kentucky." I said, "Oh, great. So you know Nikki Finney?" And she said, "The goddess?" I said, "Yes, the goddess." And then I left, and I just said, "I'm sorry for intruding." But it was a beautiful moment. And what I think about that is that if we pay attention to those moments, we find the poetry in our lives. I want to thank you for being a great audience tonight. Thank you.
On behalf of the English department and the Visiting Writers Series, I'd just like to thank you all so much for coming out. This was a really wonderful turnout for our first event of the season. We do have more of them coming up. I'm blanking on the actual date, which is very human of me. But it will be in October, and yes, Professor Walker? What's the name of the book again? The Listening Skin. Yes, no problem, yes. So, yes, thank you. Sorry, I got distracted, y'all. It's been a long day. I've been up since 6 o'clock. But have a wonderful day, and hopefully you will get notification about the event that's coming up or however you found out about it for this one. Thank you.